If you fished in the 1990s and you fish today, you already know the sport has changed beyond recognition. But here is what most people get wrong. They think the gear got better, and that is it. That is not even close. The truth is, almost everything about fishing, from the regulations to the fish themselves, to how we find them and how we share the experience, has been completely flipped on its head. I went through 36 years of changes and narrowed it down to the 20 biggest differences between fishing in 1990 and fishing in 2026. Some of these will bring back memories. Some might surprise you, and I promise you, by the time we get to number 1, you are going to be shaking your head at just how far this sport has come. If you love fishing and you've been at it for a while, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps the channel more than you know. All right. Let us get right into it. Number 20, maps versus GPS. In 1990, finding a fishing spot meant unfolding a paper topo map on your kitchen table and studying contour lines with a pencil. Maybe a buddy drew you directions on a napkin at the bait shop. You would drive out to a lake you had never been to and just hope you were reading the map right. Half the time, you would end up at the wrong access road or miss a turnoff entirely. Today, you open an app on your phone and have satellite imagery with depth contours for every lake in the country. You can scout a lake from your couch, mark waypoints before you ever leave the driveway, and navigate straight to the ramp without a second thought. Finding the spot used to be half the adventure, and honestly, some of us miss the days when getting lost was part of the trip. Number 19, fishing line technology. In 1990, you had monofilament, and that was about it. It stretched, had memory, degraded in sunlight, and you replaced it all the time. You kept a spare spool in the tackle box, and that was your whole line strategy. Today, we have fluorocarbon that is nearly invisible underwater, braided lines thinner than a hair that hold 50 pounds, and hybrid lines that combine the best properties of everything. You can match your line to specific techniques, water clarity, cover type, even time of year. Guys are running 3 different lines on 3 different setups in the same boat. Choosing your line went from grabbing whatever mono was on the shelf to an entire decision tree, and honestly, it has made a real difference in how many fish hit the net. Number 18, catch and release culture. In the early 90s, catch and release existed, but it was far from the norm. Most folks kept what they caught, and a successful trip meant a full stringer you could show off at the dock. There was nothing wrong with that, and plenty of anglers still keep fish responsibly today. But the cultural shift toward releasing fish, especially bass and trout, has been enormous over these past 3 decades. Tournaments now almost universally require live release. Conservation groups pushed the message hard, and it stuck. Younger anglers grew up with catch and release as the default, not the exception. The result is healthier fisheries and bigger average fish in lakes across the country, in ways that nobody standing at a cleaning station in 1990 could have predicted. Number 17, the bait shop decline. Every small town in America used to have a bait shop. It was the hub, the information center, the place you went to hear what was biting, grab your minnows, and swap stories with whoever was leaning on the counter. The guy behind the register knew the lake better than anyone, and he would tell you exactly what to throw and where. Today, a huge number of those shops are gone. Big box stores and online retailers absorbed the tackle side of the business. Live bait is harder to find in a lot of regions than it used to be. You can still find great local shops, and God bless the ones that are hanging on, but the era of the bait shop as the social center of fishing culture has largely faded. And I will tell you, no amount of technology or online ordering can replace the experience of walking into a bait shop that smells like night crawlers and hearing some old-timer tell you exactly where the crappie are stacked up. Number 16, boat electronics. In 1990, a fish finder was a luxury item. If you had one, it was a simple sonar unit with a grainy screen that showed you blobs. You interpreted those blobs with experience and guesswork. And honestly, getting good at reading that old sonar was a real skill. Today, a mid-range boat has side imaging, down imaging, live sonar that shows fish moving in real time, GPS chart plotting, and networking between multiple screens. You can literally watch a bass swim up to your lure on a screen while it is happening. Some anglers have more computing power on their console than what was in their office in 1990. The amount of information available to a modern angler on the water is absolutely staggering compared to what we had 36 years ago, and the learning curve to use all of it properly is a whole separate challenge. Number 16. Boat electronics. In 1990, a fish finder was a luxury item. If you had one, it was a simple sonar unit with a grainy screen that showed you blobs. You interpreted those blobs with experience and guesswork. And honestly, getting good at reading that old sonar was a real skill. Today, a mid-range boat has side imaging, down imaging, live sonar that shows fish moving in real time, GPS chart plotting, and networking between multiple screens. You can literally watch a bass swim up to your lure on a screen while it is happening. Some anglers have more computing power on their console than what was in their office in 1990. The amount of information available to a modern angler on the water is absolutely staggering compared to what we had 36 years ago, and the learning curve to use all of it properly is a whole separate challenge. Number 15. Online fishing communities. In 1990, your fishing community was local. It was the guys at the dock, your fishing club, maybe a pen pal from a magazine. If you wanted advice on a technique, you asked someone face-to-face or picked up the landline and called a buddy. Today, there are forums, Facebook groups, YouTube channels, and apps dedicated to every species and technique imaginable. You can ask about jigging for walleye at midnight and have 10 detailed answers by morning from people who fished it last week. There are entire communities built around ultra-specific niches like small creek bass fishing or muskie on the fly. The knowledge sharing has absolutely exploded, and while some old-timers rightfully miss the days when a good spot stayed secret, there is no denying that the collective fishing knowledge available to anyone with a phone today is beyond what we could have dreamed of in the 90s.
And real quick, if you are enjoying this so far, make sure you are subscribed. I put out videos like this regularly, and I do not want you to miss the next one. All right, let us keep going. Number 14, the kayak fishing revolution. This one is massive. In 1990, kayak fishing was virtually non-existent in the mainstream. Kayaks were for whitewater paddling, or maybe a calm lake paddle with the family. Nobody was rigging them with rod holders, fish finders, and pedal drives to chase redfish in the flats. Today, kayak fishing is one of the fastest growing segments in the entire sport. There are dedicated kayak bass tournaments with serious prize money. Manufacturers build fishing-specific kayaks with features that would blow the mind of any angler from the 90s. Pedal-driven kayaks that let you fish hands-free, standing platforms for sight fishing, and integrated electronic mounts. A fully rigged fishing kayak today has more technology on it than most bass boats had in 1990, and you can launch it from virtually anywhere without a boat ramp. For anglers who want to get on the water without the expense of a full boat and trailer, the kayak revolution has been nothing short of a game changer, and it brought an entire new generation into the sport. Number 13, regulations and limits. Fishing regulations in 1990 were simpler in most states. You bought a license, checked the basic size and creel limits for your area, and that was largely it. You could fit everything you needed to know on a single page. Today, the regulatory landscape is far more complex. Slot limits, seasonal closures, gear restrictions, mandatory reporting, specific bait regulations, and catch card systems have become common across the country. Some waters have rules so detailed you practically need a law degree to understand them. These changes are driven by better fisheries science and the real need to protect populations that were declining. And the truth is, many of these regulations have worked. Fisheries that might have collapsed are still going strong because of thoughtful management. The trade-off is that anglers today have to do quite a bit more homework before hitting the water to make sure they are in compliance, and the days of just grabbing a pole and heading out the door with no preparation are not quite as simple as they once were. Number 12, soft plastic lure evolution. Soft plastics existed in 1990, no question. Rubber worms and grubs were staples in every tackle box in America, but the variety was nothing like what we have today. Walk into a tackle shop now and you will find soft plastics in every shape, size, color, and scent imaginable. Creature baits, swim baits, paddle tails, crawfish imitations, so realistic you have to touch them to confirm they are not real. The compounds have changed too. Modern soft plastics are infused with salt, scent, and formulas that feel more natural to fish, which means they hold on longer and give you more time to set the hook. Some baits even float at specific angles to mimic dying baitfish. There are biodegradable options now for anglers who want to leave less behind. And the colors? Good grief!
You could spend an hour just picking a color pattern. The sheer innovation in this one tackle category alone represents a dramatic shift from the 90s, when you grabbed a bag of purple worms and called it a day. Number 11. Women in fishing. In 1990, fishing was overwhelmingly marketed toward and participated in by men. Women were rarely featured in fishing media, rarely competing in tournaments, and rarely represented in the industry in any visible way. If a woman showed up to a tournament weigh-in, she stood out because there were so few. That has changed significantly over the past 3 decades. Today, women are some of the most prominent voices in fishing content creation. Tournament circuits have expanded to include more women competitors. Brands have developed gear specifically designed for women, rather than just slapping a pink color on existing products. Organizations dedicated to getting more women and girls into fishing have grown substantially across the country. This is one of the most positive shifts in the sport, because fishing should belong to everyone, and the more people we have who love this sport and advocate for clean water and healthy fisheries, the stronger the entire fishing community becomes. Number 10. The price of fishing. Let us talk about money for a moment, because this one hits home for a lot of us. In 1990, you could outfit yourself with a solid rod, reel, tackle box, and enough lures to last a season for well under $100. A decent boat with a motor could be had for a few thousand. Fishing licenses in most states were under $20. Today, a quality rod alone can run $200 to $400. Premium reels are $300 and up. A fully equipped bass boat with modern electronics can easily exceed $80,000. Even fishing licenses have gone up considerably, though they remain one of the great bargains in outdoor recreation when you consider what that money funds. Now, you absolutely do not need to spend a fortune to catch fish. A simple setup still works just as well as it did in the 90s, but the ceiling on what you can spend has gone through the roof, and the marketing machine behind fishing gear today is designed to make you feel like you need the latest and greatest. The truth is, the fish do not care what brand is on your reel. They never have, and they never will. Number 9. Fishing shows versus fishing content. In 1990, if you wanted to watch fishing content, you had a handful of Saturday morning shows on broadcast TV, and maybe some VHS tapes ordered from a magazine. Bill Dance, Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, these were the only names because they were the only game in town. Today, there are thousands of fishing content creators on YouTube alone. Podcasts, live streams, TikTok, Instagram Reels. The amount of content available is overwhelming, and what is really interesting is that many of today's most popular creators are regular people, not pros or TV personalities, just passionate anglers who picked up a camera. The barrier to entry dropped to near zero, and the result is a more diverse, more authentic fishing media landscape than we have ever had. But I will say this, nothing quite captures the magic of waking up on a Saturday, pouring a cup of coffee, and watching Bill dance on a fuzzy TV screen. If you know, you know. Number 8. Invasive species battles. This is one of the more serious entries, and it affects every angler whether they realize it or not. In 1990, invasive aquatic species were a concern, but the scope was not fully understood. Zebra mussels had just been discovered in the Great Lakes. Asian carp were present, but not yet dominating rivers. Snakeheads were not established in the East. Fast forward, and invasive species are now one of the biggest threats facing freshwater fisheries. Zebra and quagga mussels have spread across dozens of states. Silver and bighead carp have devastated native populations in parts of the Mississippi system. Snakeheads, blue catfish in the Chesapeake, flathead catfish outside their native range. The list keeps growing. Agencies spend hundreds of millions annually on control efforts, and the honest truth is that once established, eradication is nearly impossible. This is why those boat inspection stations and clean, drain, dry campaigns matter so much. Every angler has a role in slowing the spread, and the stakes could not be higher. If you are still here, first of all, thank you. And I know you are going to want to see the rest of this list, because trust me, the top 7 are where it really gets wild. Do me a quick favor and smash that like button if you have not already. It really does help get this video in front of more anglers who would appreciate it. Number 7. Fishing tournament culture and money. This one is going to surprise a lot of people. In 1990, bass tournaments existed and were popular, but the money was modest. The Bassmaster Classic first place prize was around $50,000. Respectable, but not life-changing. Today, the
landscape is almost unrecognizable. The classic first place has exceeded $300,000. Major League Fishing, which did not exist until 2011, has massive payouts. Total prize purses across major circuits reach into the tens of millions annually. But it goes beyond the top tier. Local trails, weekend jackpots, online tournaments, and kayak circuits have proliferated everywhere. Top professional anglers today can earn 7 figures, combining winnings, sponsorships, YouTube revenue, and brand deals. Some content creators who never fished a major tournament earn more than touring pros. The commercialization is both impressive and a bit alarming. More money means more innovation and opportunities. But there is a concern that monetizing every aspect changes the character of the sport. That said, if you love fishing and have something to share, there has never been a better time to do it. Number 6. The decline of trout streams and cold water fisheries. This one is not fun to talk about, but it is one of the most important differences, and it deserves serious attention. Cold water fisheries, particularly native brook trout streams and wild trout populations, have been under increasing pressure. Water temperatures in many streams have risen measurably over the past 36 years. Trout are extremely sensitive to temperature, and as averages creep upward, the range of suitable habitat shrinks. Development along waterways, agricultural runoff, and changes in precipitation patterns all contribute. There is good news, too. Conservation organizations like Trout Unlimited have grown enormously and completed thousands of stream restoration projects. Dam removals have reopened hundreds of miles of historic habitat, but the overall trend for cold water fisheries remains concerning, and anyone who fished a small mountain brook trout stream in the 90s and has gone back recently knows things are not always what they used to be. Protecting these fisheries for future generations requires sustained effort and sometimes difficult decisions about land use. It is one of the most important challenges facing the fishing community today. Number 5. Live sonar and the ethics debate. All right, now we are getting into the entries that have fundamentally changed how we think about fishing. Live sonar, specifically forward-facing sonar from brands like Garmin with LiveScope and Lawrence with Active Target, represents the single most transformative piece of technology to hit fishing since the original fish finder, and the debate around it has been one of the hottest conversations in decades. Here's what it does. Traditional sonar shows a historical record of what passed beneath your boat. Live sonar shows what is happening in real time, in front of or around your boat, in stunning detail. You can see individual fish, watch them react to your lure, and essentially play a video game, adjusting your presentation until they bite. It is incredible technology. It is also ignited a fierce debate. Critics argue it gives an unfair advantage that removes the skill of reading water and relying on instinct that traditionally separated great anglers from average ones. Some tournament organizations have debated restricting or banning it. Supporters counter that every major advancement in fishing history faced the same criticism, from depth finders to GPS to trolling motors, and that skilled anglers will always outperform regardless of tools. My take is somewhere in the middle. The technology is neutral. How you use it determines whether it enhances or diminishes your experience, but there is no denying that the gap between a 1990 fish finder and a 2026 live sonar unit is one of the most dramatic leaps in the history of recreational fishing. Number 4. The state of the bass. Bass fishing is the most popular freshwater fishing in the United States and has been for decades, so the state of bass fisheries today compared to 1990 tells a story that every angler should understand. On the positive side, thanks to widespread catch and release practices, improved fisheries management, and better habitat conservation, bass populations in many premier fisheries are healthier than they have ever been. Record fish are being caught with surprising regularity. Lakes that were good in the 90s are producing giants now. Average bass size in many fisheries has increased as catch and release allows more fish to reach their full growth potential. Stocking programs and habitat projects have even created quality fisheries where none existed before. But the picture is not all positive, and we need to be honest about that. Urban and suburban sprawl has destroyed countless small ponds, farm ponds, and neighborhood fishing holes that were the entry point into the sport for millions of anglers over the years. Nutrient pollution causes harmful
algal blooms in lakes across the country, killing fish and making waters unsafe. Drought conditions have dropped water levels in major western reservoirs to alarming lows, and invasive species, as we already discussed, continue to alter the competitive landscape. The overall picture is real progress in many areas, but persistent and growing challenges in others. The bass community is more engaged in conservation than at any point in history, which is encouraging. But if you care about fishing for bass in good water for years and decades to come, staying informed and supporting conservation organizations and clean water advocacy is not just nice to do, it is essential. Number 3, the death of the fishing trip and the rise of the fishing lifestyle. This one is more about culture than technology, but it might be the most profound change on this entire list. In 1990, fishing was something you did on weekends or vacation. You loaded up the truck, drove to the lake, fished, and went back to regular life. It was a hobby, an escape, and for millions it still is, and that is perfectly fine. But alongside that, something new has emerged. Fishing has become a lifestyle brand, an identity, a career path, and a content category. People structure entire lives around fishing as creators, influencers, and brand ambassadors. Their trucks are wrapped in sponsor logos, and their social media is non-stop fishing content. Fishing apparel evolved from functional outdoor clothing to fashion statements people wear everywhere. Companies like AFTCO and Huck built empires around the idea that fishing is not just something you do, it is who you are. Whether this is positive or a departure from what made fishing special depends on your perspective. There is a real argument that constant content creation has diluted the quiet, contemplative nature of fishing many of us fell in love with. When every fish has to be photographed and posted before it gets released, something about the private joy changes. But there's also a strong case that this evolution kept fishing relevant, making it visible to younger demographics and ensuring the sport survives. The reality is probably both things are true, and the best approach is to fish in whatever way brings you the most joy, camera or not. Number 2, you are not going to believe how much this one has changed. Fisheries, science, and management. I know it does not sound as exciting as live sonar or tournament prize money, but the revolution in how we understand and manage fish populations is the foundation everything else on this list rests on. In 1990, fisheries management was largely based on broad assumptions, limited data, and a one-size-fits-all approach. Biologists did the best they could, but the understanding of population dynamics, genetics, and ecosystem interactions was a fraction of what it is today. Fast forward to 2026, and the science has been transformed. Genetic analysis allows biologists to identify distinct populations within the same species. Acoustic telemetry tracks individual fish movements across entire systems for years. Environmental DNA sampling lets researchers determine which species are present just by analyzing a water sample. Advanced modeling predicts population responses to regulations with far greater accuracy. Stocking programs now incorporate genetics to protect wild populations. Habitat restoration has evolved from simple stream bank work to comprehensive watershed-scale projects. Citizen science has also emerged as a powerful tool. Angler catch data submitted through apps provides volumes of information impossible to collect through traditional surveys. Every time you log a catch in a fishing app, you are contributing to better management of the fisheries you care about. The result is that we understand fish and their ecosystems better than at any point in history. That does not mean every fishery is thriving, but the decisions being made today are based on the best science we have ever had. If you ever get a chance to attend a public fisheries management meeting in your area, I encourage you to go. Understanding how it works and having your voice heard is one of the most impactful things you can do as an angler. And finally, number 1, the single biggest difference between fishing in 1990 and fishing in 2026. And honestly, this one is not even close. It is access. Access to water, access to public fishing opportunities, and the ongoing battle to keep fishing available to ordinary people. In 1990, public access was already under pressure, but the situation has intensified dramatically. Private land ownership along rivers and streams has increasingly restricted bank access that anglers once took for granted. Legal battles over navigable waterways have played out in courtrooms across the country with wildly different outcomes state to state. Development of lakefront and riverfront property has converted informal access points into private docks and manicured lawns. Public boat ramps have deteriorated due to underfunding, while demand has only grown, creating longer waits, more crowding, and more conflict. But here is where the story gets more hopeful. There has been a tremendous amount of work done to expand access. The Sport Fish Restoration Program has invested billions in conservation and access projects. State agencies have built new ramps and fishing piers. The Land and Water Conservation Fund has protected critical parcels. Organizations like the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partners and the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation have advocated tirelessly. Programs opening private land to public fishing through voluntary agreements have expanded in many states, and kayak fishing has created access where none existed for boat anglers because you can launch from virtually any shoreline. The reason access is number one is simple. None of the other 19 differences matter if people cannot get to the water. The best technology is useless without somewhere to use it. The most vibrant fishing community cannot survive if each generation finds it harder to wet a line. Every angler has a stake in this fight, whether that means supporting access organizations, attending public meetings, or simply taking a young person to a public fishing spot. The future depends on us showing up and speaking up. It will not happen by itself. It never does. All right, folks, that is the list. 20 of the biggest differences between fishing in 1990 and fishing in 2026. We covered everything from paper maps to live sonar, from Saturday morning fishing shows to thousands of YouTube creators, from modest tournament checks to six-figure paydays, and from simple regulations to cutting-edge fishery science. But at the end of the day, the core of what makes fishing special has not changed one bit. It is still about getting out on the water, feeling that tug on the line, and sharing it with the people you care about. The gear is different, the culture is different, but that feeling when a fish hits your lure is exactly the same as it was in 1990. Thank you for watching all the way through. Leave a comment and tell me which difference surprised you most, or which ones I missed. Share this with a fishing buddy who would enjoy the trip down memory lane. Until next time, tight lines and good water. We will see you on the next one.